President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to recognize King Misuzulu KaZwelithini as the rightful heir of the amaZulu throne was rushed. That's according to lawyer for Prince Mbonisi Zulu, advocate Thabani Masuku. Masuku says the royal family was deprived of its right to deliberate on the succession process.
Why we believe the president's decision was incorrect, was unlawful. It's simpler when we formulate questions that would guide how we come to the conclusion that we come to, which is that the president acted hastily and in so doing deprived the royal family and the entire family of the Zulu kingdom the right to engage with very complex traditional customary issues that govern how a king is announced to the nation. Now, if the royal family identified a successor to the late king, His Majesty KaZwelithini, then the second question is, did the royal family submit an application to the president, which is similarly a mandatory procedural requirement for the lawfulness of the president's decision? Now, if these two questions are answered in the affirmative, the third question, which is very important for the very first point that we raise, is whether the president consulted the minister and the premier prior to the recognition decision on 17 March 2022. And of course, if the president consulted with the minister and the premier, then the decision of the president is lawful. But if the president, in his own words, says he consulted only with the minister, then that's where the deficiency lies. The corollary to the argument I've just advanced, my lord, is this. If the Zulu royal family did not identify a successor or submit an application to the president, that is the end of the matter.
All right, let's take you to the High Court sitting in Pretoria. That's where we find Bongani Gema, who is outside the court with a number of amaButho, as well as some maidens who have been bussed in from KwaZulu-Natal to attend trial proceedings for the next 3 days. Bongani Gema, talk to us about logistically, how will it work for those who have come all the way from KwaZulu-Natal to attend trial proceedings for the next 3 days? Where will they be housed?
Well, I can tell you that when we arrived here, we did see about 3 buses that passed in the amaButho and the maidens who made their way here. It's just a handful of maidens who are part of the gatherings, and then the rest is amaButho. We know that a number of them come from areas around, Gauteng. There is a few of them coming from KwaZulu-Natal just to be, pay their support, so support King Misuzulu because spending time here outside speaking to a few of them, it was very hard to identify which ones are here to support Prince Simakade, but those we managed to speak to were telling us that they were here to support King Misuzulu. Remember that earlier on, I think it was last week or the week before, we did see, reports that the Royal House had made a request to the city of Tshwane to make sure that, they get an area where they can have those marquees where these amaButho will be gathered. Also, they were saying that they want to do a number of rituals that will include slaughtering cows to provide food for amaButho who will be gathered here. So right now, I cannot be certain that that was provided but coming in here, we did see that there's a high number of police presence, and also roads have been barricaded because they were expecting about 3,000 amaButho. But I have with me Umtitielo amaButho Baba Usipho Mhlongo to explain to us a number, of these things that I've touched on, and also if they did manage to get permission from the city. Baba sibonga kakhulu isikhathi sakho Njomane, siyazi ukuthi wakuthiwe kuzofaka isicelo kumasipala walapha eTshwane ukuze nikwazi ukuthola indawo nizohlangana kona, nithole namatende nala nizokwazi ukulala khona. Kubile impumelelo lokho.
Kubile impumelelo konke kuhamba njengohlelo kwakuhleleke ngalo. Indawo ikhona, amaButho aphephile, yonke into nje isorted ngendlela.
Indawo mhlawumbe nibeke kuyona ikuphi nendawo and izokulungela ukuthi sizomthwala esibaleni esilindele kulezi insuku ezintathu.
hayi indawo ivuleka ngokwanele ihholo olukhulu lidouble story livuleke phezulu livuleke nangaphansi ayikho inkinga yokuthi ibutho lingahlala lapho.
Nduna siyabona la amaphoyisa athele ngobuningi babo azoqapha isimo mhlawumbe bekukhona yini insolo singabe khona ngaba khona ukuxabana noma uthi ungasuka khona la ePitoli.
Azikho insolo akukho ukuxabana kodwa nje njengesizwe samaZulu esinengonyama yasindlula mithi angikuveze ukuthi asikho hipho ngokuba kwethu la. Ukuba kwethu la kusho ukuthi sisehlazweni ngoba isilo sethu sibekiwe ngomhla singene sibani ngomhla 2 August kwathi ngomhla 29 October sagcotshwa ngokupheleleyo. Ukuba kwethu la asikho isidingo sokube lapho ngoba imbube ikhona isilo sibekiwe akukho kunye ngathi kubuye kushintsha njengamanje ngoba thina okwethu esikudingayo njengabaholi bamabutho sidinga ubunye bukaZulu asidingi into ethi kusaqhiqwa inkantolo kusamangalelwana kusathukwana kuhlonishwana kulimaza isithunzi sesilo lesi.
Njomane uma inkantolo igcina mhlambe iseke umntwana Simakade njengoba kuyena ozela enkantolo nizokuvumela lokho ukuthi kuze kuqhubeke ubumbano noxolo niqhubeke nimlandele yena uma kuvuma kuthiwa umthetho ngempela useka yena.
Angikholelwa ukuthi inkantolo ingavuma ukuthi ivume i-option yesibili ngoba isilo sibekwe ngayo inqubo mgomo nemigomo yenkantolo ukuthi mhla 29 October last year kwakuyinkantolo egunyaza ukuthi akubeke isilo ngokusemthethweni yonke into yenziwe kungaba yishwa nje esizweni ukuthi unyaka uwodwa kungabeka ingonyama kwesibili sikhishwa sekubekwe enye kodwa ke njengesizwe samaZulu sikholele ekutheni lokho okwenze ukuthi ingonyama ibe ngomhla 29 yikho ingonyama futhi yiyo indlula mithi lekho kungaba yishwa ke esizweni ukuthi unyaka nonyaka ngabekwa ingonyama embili ezahlukene.
Siyabonga nje.
Siyabonga.
Do you have it there, Umtitielu Amabutho, the commander of the regiment, just telling us, their side when it comes to supporting the king, saying that whatever the court's decision is going to be on this particular matter, they will continue, standing by King Misuzulu because as far as they know, he is the only king of the amaZulu. And also he said that, they've been provided with accommodation by the Sisu of Tshwaneo Hall, which is going to be able to take all of them for the remainder of the days here in Pretoria.
All right, Bongani Gema outside the High Court in Pretoria. Thank you very much for that report. We stay with that theme and we speak now to Nqobile Madlala, who's been following developments inside the court for us. And Nqobile Madlala, you're standing by to speak to Prince Africa Zulu, who is the King's Communications and Stakeholder Management Head. But we also heard some of the arguments in court. Thabani Masuku on behalf of Prince Mbonisi saying that there's a great deal of unhappiness in the royal family by the role that the late Prince Mbonisi played. They believe he had no place to direct affairs of the royal family, in particular the placement of a king. Okay, unfortunately, we have lost our connection with Nqobile Madlala. We'll re-establish it as she is standing by to speak to Prince Africa Zulu, who is the head of communications for the King. Nqobile Madlala, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Dudu. In fact, when we were inside, there was a great deal of explaining and how the royal family basically feels, according to, of course, Thabani Masuku, who was just explaining that they feel that the royal house should be given the right to choose who was supposed to be the successor. So, of course, I'm going to bring in now the spokesperson for the current reigning king. And I mean, I think it's very interesting that we've heard that the royal family hasn't had a right to choose their successor. Is this true?
First of all, I think you must ask yourself, who is the royal family? Now, you can't have people who are coming to just promote their careers as lawyers to bring argument that are going to render the whole royal family structure dysfunctional. We have a sitting monarch, we have got His Majesty, and His Majesty has been certified by the laws of this country. All due processes were followed. It was an open process, and the reason we are here is that we've got people who want to be king. We are here because of the king wannabes. Now, you cannot tell me that the rebel side has got a say to talk about the royal family. Only the king decides who are the members of the royal family. And as far as we're concerned, that process was done long ago when the king was born from the princess of Swaziland. Had the king not been not been brought to KwaZulu to marry King Zwelithini, then we'd be talking a different argument. But right now, we've got His Majesty, who's born from Her Majesty Queen Mantombi. Queen Mantombi is a mother and the princess of Swaziland. So in the royal family structure, those things decide events. They dictate what happens. They dictate the reason that you are here today. So you should not be misled. There is only one Zulu royal family, and that Zulu royal family is actually led by His Majesty, the Great One, the Great Lion, His Majesty King Misuzulu.
But I mean, I think the lawyer was just making a compelling argument there, talking about the fact that the sisters and the brothers of the late king are supposed to partake in the decision making, and at this point they feel that the president was rushed to make the decision, or rather rushed into making the decision, because the family hadn't yet sent the letter to ask that there be one successor that is chosen.
This is not a wedding. This is not a wedding where you're going to be waiting for uncles who are in Johannesburg. The processes were followed by government. The minister, the then Minister of Culture, Minister Nkosazana, embarked on a very serious campaign to make sure that they take all the feedback and they get everybody involved. And at the end of the day, the royal family already knew who the king was. The king was not chosen on the 14th of May. It was just an affirmation, what we already knew. It was just something that we already knew. From the childhood, we already knew. You know, there were days when we used to protect King Misuzulu from being shot when we were playing toys. We already knew this is a king. It's not a new thing. It's not something that we start today. I know now that with this Khoisan Act, there's a whole lot of confusion because it opens up opportunities for people to keep on trying to campaign and also contest the court. We don't know how much money the other side has. We don't know what are their revenues. And as long as we don't know those questions, who is funding them, we're going to be in these situations. We're going to be having people who are attacking and questioning a legitimate lion in the zoo. And the king is as comfortable as you can think. The king understands that this is a bad right. Remember, we are here because of the Zulu customs. In the Zulu culture, the king is born. The king, these are just formalities. It's because it's a king's courtesy. We owe it to him that he's still participating, and for the fact that we're here. Because he's a humble king, and he went through the same processes. Who had taken the king to court in the first place? Who had taken the king? Did the king take the process to court? The king had rested the process in the hands of the family. And the family did the right thing and followed the processes. The day King Zwelithini passed away is the day King Misuzulu ascended to the throne to become king. All these other things are just formalities to confuse people.
I mean, there are questions in terms of the role that was played by Prince Mbonisi at this point, that he basically took it upon himself to decide then what was the decision. Are you saying that that's not true then?
You must ask yourself that who was Prince Mbonisi? His Royal Highness was the Prime Minister of the Zulu nation. The Prime Minister, according to Zulu culture, possesses extraordinary powers to make a certain discretionary, to engage on discretionary issues where he can use his own discretion, because it is designed, the culture is designed to accommodate the crisis. Should we be in crisis? It's like when the country, there is no president, the army takes over. In the royal family, the prime minister takes over, he runs the events, and he did a great job. And he is a prince of KwaPhindangene. KwaPhindangene is a royal house. I heard this argument. His argument is invalid. KwaPhindangene is a royal house that is recognized by the monarchy, by the king. If you ask the king, he will tell you KwaPhindangene is a royal house. So it is new today, because they were just yesterday at KwaPhindangene and they were eating all the food there. And I'm surprised that this is how they are being grateful for the dinner they got there, because they behave very well. Today, their lawyer is saying something else, that the prime minister is not the prime minister. So the prime minister, what he did, everything, he worked through the processes. He worked through processes, he collaborated with every party, and he followed every Zulu law. And Zulu law is very, very, very deep. It's not as simple as the Khoisan law.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Of course, if you can hear, they clearly they're saying that everything was followed according to how it was supposed to be. And of course, that argument about the fact that the royal house was not given a chance to choose the king, they rendering it invalid, saying that a king is born and rather not chosen in this case.